it was just one obstacle after another. And finally, I had just gotten to the point where I lost my faith. I had lost my connection with myself. I was like a shell of a person. So I was just like this body moving through life and going through my day to day activities.
Welcome, everybody, to the Oracle Podcast Spiritual Stories. Today, I'm very excited to interview Meta, who's one of the practitioners on the Oracle platform. She will tell us a bit more about what she does. I know she's a multidimensional healer with many talents. So, Meta, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk to you. And I would love it if you could start by just introducing yourself and what you do in the spiritual space.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here too. I am Meta. I am a multi-dimensional visionary healer. So I work with the angelic collective consciousness. And my mission here on earth is to help others remember their own divinity and really connect back to their own soul essence and live an authentic life.
Thank you. Yes. And we're going to be talking about that because I know you are quite big on authenticity and living one's uniqueness, which I really love. I feel like that's where we should all be heading in the future. But before we start that, we're here to talk about your story and how you became who you are today and, your process of transformation. So could you take us back to when Meta was a little girl and tell us little bit about your childhood and your upbringing?
I had a beautiful childhood, loving parents, loving family. But as a child, I was very, very sensitive to energy, which I understand now. At that time, I did not understand that was what it was. So I was very, very intuitive. I understood what people needed. And I had this ability to kind of see people at their soul essence and then see them in their human experience. And it was always such a contradiction for me because I couldn't understand as a young child why they weren't acting in life and showing up as their soul essence. So it was a contradiction.
Can I ask you how were you seeing their soul essence? Were you visually seeing something or feeling something?
Yeah, it was as early as I can remember. But I would just have the knowing of who that person was. I could see the good in the person, or I could see their full potential. And then the way that they were showing up in their life was such a
Mm.
contradiction, and they couldn't see that. So it always really confused me. But as
Okay.
a child, I was very nurturing, intuitive, always knew like strangers what words they needed to hear or if they just needed a hug or if they just needed encouragement or so I was very, very intuitive that way. And I also was very intuitive when people were experiencing like really heavy emotions. I was very intuitive and I could actually feel those emotions and not just see what they were going through. So I was able to kind of put myself in their shoes and really understand it at a deep level. And as a young child, it was not the norm, you know.
Yeah. Was it hard?
It was natural to me until the time where I started getting judged for it from my peers. Why did you say that? What are you doing? That's a stranger. You can't talk to him. And so I started finding myself slowly shutting those gifts down or withdrawing.
Yeah.
So I would feel it internally, but I wouldn't express it externally. So there
Yeah.
became that separation between who I truly am as a soul essence and who I was showing up in the physical world.
Were your parents supportive and understanding of this? Like, I mean, they must have seen it. And what did they say?
The way that they supported me was, by teaching me not to be so soft-hearted.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You have to protect yourself just because you know something and you have to wait until there's evidence in the world before you express it. So their teachings or their way of guiding me was
Mm.
protection. Which I've
Yeah.
learned, like, in life, that's been a huge healing to go through that too, because what they were teaching me to do was shut down my natural gifts and who I am. But they did it
With
from
their
a
best
loving
intentions, of course. But
yes,
Okay, so then through your you started shutting down. So is this not through your teenage years?
I was trying to really understand who I was. And so I started trying to be who everyone told me I should be. I tried to do the right thing, show up, and trusting my intuition in moments when it came through really, really strongly. But other than that, just questioning it and really, really not listening to it. So, I did what society told us to do. And, I got in the job that it was, and mentally, I basically went from my heart into my mind. Like, these are
Yeah,
the things you're supposed to do. And so I
yeah.
basically did that through my teenage years and then into my adulthood, which,
Like so many of us, right? Like so many people, because I mean, not everybody's that intuitive or empathetic like that, but most of us have like more of a knowing of who we are as kids. And then this is who you're supposed to be. This is who you're supposed and it's this disconnect which is what gets us into trouble at the end of the day. So okay, so then you started following a little bit more the societal path, and then what happened? How did that go?
well, it didn't go very well for me, but I was very determined. So I stuck with it for decades. But what I found was there was always this emptiness within me. So on the
Yeah.
outside, I appeared happy, I was successful, but there was always this emptiness within me. And I didn't understand where that came from, but it was just like this desire or knowing that I was to do more or I was to show up in a different way.
Did you end up having like a traditional career, family?
I had family. I have 2 boys that are adults now. I had a very good, successful career. I've worked in banking and worked in marketing. So I had the normal life, the dream
Mm,
life, but there was always something missing within that.
yeah.
Um,
Did you have a breaking point at some point?
of course, there's always that breaking point because what I've learned is if we're not listening to our intuition, it'll continue to put us in these situations where we have the opportunity to come back to ourselves. And that's really what happened to me in 2017, I guess. I found myself in a very unhealthy relationship that I'd been in for 15 years, married. He was a narcissist, and I'm an empath, which is just a very volatile situation if you understand that.
Yeah.
He had some alcohol and drug problems, which intensified that. And the better I became at fixing things, because I'm an empath, right? I wanted to fix and help and make everything better. The better I became at that, the more destructive he became. So it was just a really, really unhealthy relationship.
Mm.
And I found myself just a shell of a person. Like I didn't know who I was anymore. I was completely lost. On the outside, I was there for everyone. I was working. I was happy, appeared to be happy. But on the inside, I was completely empty. I would just go to bed and pray that I wouldn't wake up the next morning because I was just done. I didn't have any passion anymore. It was my breaking point. And a lot of things in life had happened through that period of time. I'd lost both of my parents and family issues. And it was just one obstacle after another. And finally, I had just gotten to the point where I lost my sake. I had lost my connection with myself. I was like a shell of a person. So I was just like this body moving through life and going through my day to day activities. But on the inside, I was just completely empty.
And what happened?
So every night I'd go to bed and pray I wouldn't wake up. But the next morning I would wake up. Like there has to be a
You gotta
reason.
get yourself out of it. Yeah. And I mean, I'm hearing you, and I can feel so many people relating to the story. I know people not in the exact same, but like similar positions. And I just know so many people are in this situation of complete disconnect with who they are. So I'd love to know how you managed to reconnect with yourself.
So I kind of started off small. I started getting out in nature and walking. I started meditating. And that started bringing me little by little back to myself. But the challenge with that, with the relationship, the more I came back to myself, the more volatile the relationship became because I was not showing up as the person that he needed me to be in that relationship.
Yeah.
Um, it was a difficult situation. I financially didn't have the funds to leave. We had just moved to a new city where I didn't know anyone. I was working at a job just that I had taken just until I could find something better so it wouldn't financially support me. And I really felt like I had no other choice. I really had nothing.
Mm.
So one day I went to this convenience store and I was buying something. And as I was checking out, I had $1 in my hand. And I remember asking the girl, like, I'd like to buy a lottery ticket. Can I buy a lottery ticket? And she's like, which one do you want? I'm like, I have no idea. I've never bought one, but I was like, I'd love a lottery ticket. So I purchased a lottery ticket and I went and I sat in a park. And for some reason, I just prayed over this lottery ticket. I'm like, God, please, if you allow me, if you please just give me enough that I can get out of this relationship and get back on my feet, I promise I'll have the courage to leave because I tried to leave previously and I never could follow through. I promise I'll have the courage to leave and I promise I'll get back to myself. I'll find my way home. And so I prayed and prayed over the lottery ticket and I scratched it off and I won the lottery.
You did?
I won the lottery.
You won.
I won. I won $50.
Okay.
And I laughed,
Okay.
I cried,
That's
and I
yeah.
laughed, and I
Oh
cried,
my
and I
gosh.
in manifestation, you have to be very specific about what like,
Okay.
it was the first time that
Yeah.
that connected back with the universe, right? Because
Yes.
this is
I was
something I asked for and that I was given it right in my lap.
yeah, I also heard that the universe can also be pretty humorous sometimes. So
So I was like, "Okay, God, I've forgotten you have a sense of humor." And I'm like, "I promise, and you kept your end of the bargain, I'll keep mine." And so I thought, "Well, I'm gonna put this in a checking account just by myself. That way the funds won't disappear. I'm gonna get a second job. When I have enough, I'm out of here." That was my hope. That had happened, and then all these little synchronicities started happening. I found this note from my dad that he had written when I was probably 7 or 8, and you have to remember my dad had been gone for, like, 30 years by this time. So I found this note from my dad that he had written me as a child, and it really reminded me of who I was, like, who I was before I started changing.
what did it say?
It was a wish for me, and it was like, "May the light in your light always be as bright as the light in your heart is." And so
Oh,
it was like a remembrance of who I
oh,
was when I was
beautiful.
filled with my light, and, like, it was a
Oh,
wish for my life, and, I
yeah,
really
beautiful.
realized, like, my life is not like this right now. Why not?
It feels like that was something that he wrote for you to receive at that point in time when you were older, right? Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
like, it was almost as if he knew that I would need that to
Yeah.
come. Those 2 things happened, and then probably within a week of those things happening, I was standing in the living room one afternoon, and all hell was breaking loose like it did every afternoon, and I felt like this beautiful white divine light just shining down on me, like this beautiful column of light, and I felt these angel wings wrap around me, like embracing me, and I
Yeah.
found myself saying, "I'm sorry, but this isn't the life I wanna live, and I'm not living it anymore."
Wow.
And that was the moment. It was this moment of pure peace, serenity, knowing it was just the most beautiful feeling that I have ever felt. And I did. I walked out. I had no idea where I was going to stay. I had no money. I had nothing. But in that moment,
Right there and then you walked out.
well, I asked if I could sleep on the couch for like a week until I could find a place. So
Oh,
within a week, I left. But that
Wow.
was the moment that I knew that I didn't have anything physically to support
Mm.
me, that I had my connection back with God that I needed. When that happened, like, miracles started happening. Like, my coworker had a room that she let me just move into until I could start paying rent, and, I mean, all of these things just I mean, they just started happening and coming to me, and I promised myself in that moment that I would never lose that sense of connection or peace. So that is really what started my spiritual journey because you say that, but it's not always easy because I realized that any conflict that came up within me, any fear, anything within me was within me. It was of my own creation. It was either my thoughts, my beliefs, my conditioning, my patterns. So I really started facing all of those. So anytime I would lose that sense of connection or feel disconnected, feel anxiety or feeling worry or fear coming up, I would step back and say, okay, what within me is causing this? And
Mm.
started healing these beliefs and these patterns and these things that I had created and allowed within my life. I started
Yeah.
coming back to who I truly am. My spiritual gifts just like blew open.
And I mean, I want to ask you before I forget, what is your belief that you think changed the most? What is a belief that you had before that you now totally don't, that perhaps liberated you the most?
That I was alone, that I had been forgotten, that there wasn't a universal or a God or source or a divine purpose of my life. There wasn't guidance. And I think that's the one thing that I had completely forgotten because I thought I
Mm.
had to do it by myself. I had to figure it out. I had to make it happen. I had to
Mhm.
make it work. I had forgotten the soul of myself. And
Yeah.
I think so often we do that. We come into this human experience and we forget that we're still spirit, we're still soul. And it's not to forget that, it's to come into this human experience and be able to merge those 2.
Yeah, this is so beautiful to hear because one can always relate. I'm also relating to the story. And that thing about not being alone is a beautiful thing to remember when it's tough. And we forget. So thank you for that reminder. So you say all these like spiritual gifts started coming, and tell us a little bit more of what started happening till maybe like today, to who you are today.
One of the things that happened that was a real choice point or turning point for me was there was this young man that had committed suicide, and I had just met his father briefly. And after he committed suicide and I heard about it, the young man started coming to me at night, communicating with me. I have had mediumship encounters before, but this felt different. And I think it was because I knew and it was so raw to me, knowing where he was and then wishing that I had could have done something to help him find his way. That was my initial thoughts, but now I've come to understand suicide at a completely different level and to a higher awareness. But anyway, this young man started coming to me and trusted me with a message to his family. And his family was very private and was grieving personally. And then I was at a choice point that I had this message that may bring the family healing. And I had to make a choice whether to step into that role and deliver the message or to shrink back into that persona.
Mm.
So I was able to deliver that message to the family and provide deep healing for them. So
Yeah.
for me, like that was a choice point of saying, I'm not ignoring these gifts any longer. I trust that they are here for healing. I know that they are real. and I am going to use my voice and share these gifts that I'm receiving.
Yeah.
So it was spiritual gifts like that, mediumship, receiving messages for people, just random people that I would meet, uh,
Yeah.
communicate. I communicate deeply with animals, so animals would come to me and like, I would be like, "Oh, this one has a message for me. Oh, that's just a squirrel." I mean, it was all of this stuff that was opening up to me, and then in that process of that, like, energy just started, like, coming out of my hands. Like, I would meet someone, and I could just feel it. My hands would be red, and I could feel the exchange, and I had absolutely no idea what was happening, which, really opened the door and led me into understanding, working in the quantum field and working with energy and really, I won't say harnessing, but crafting that skill set that I have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. And through this process, were you scared or excited? How were you feeling? Did you know that you were stepping into who you really were? Were you back and forth?
I wouldn't say that there was fear because there was this deep knowing that I was on the correct path finally. That
Uh-huh.
there was, like, calming my nervous system and in my body and integrating all of these things because all these huge spiritual experiences that are coming in, but you also have your human. So there was a
Yeah.
huge integration happening in the process of merging the 2.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I guess the best gift that happened was like, the first year, like, I was working 5 jobs just to get back on my feet, but all of them were beautiful jobs with beautiful people, and they all flowed together with the schedules and all, so I was able to it was a gift. It was difficult in the physical world to do this, but it was like a year and a half into it, I was finally back on my feet, I was down to 1 job, and then I received this intuitive message that I was to travel to Ireland. Had never traveled internationally before, and I ended up booking a trip for, like, 10 days. A friend and I went, and it was the most nurturing experience that I'd ever had, and many, many things happened, synchronicity on that trip. I came home, and within a month, I sold everything I just reacquired, quit my job, and went back to Ireland just for 3 months. And that was when I really started stepping into my mastery because the land healed me and the land taught me because it awakened the wisdom within me and
Hmm.
reconnected me back. Because I had already always felt like I was walking in 2 worlds, like 1 foot in one world and 1 foot in the other world. But my time in Ireland, I really came into myself and I was able to bring these 2 aspects of myself together into one.
Yeah. Is that because you had ancestors from Ireland? You look a little bit Irish. Is that no? Nothing to do with that?
Not that I can
No.
find. I mean, everyone asks me that, "Why Ireland?" But it's just there's different places on the earth that speak to us and call us, and I think, so many times we ignore that, but the land holds so much wisdom and healing for us that it is beneficial not to ignore that and to follow those
Yeah.
little nudges.
Yeah.
But Ireland is such a special place, and I worked with the stone circles and the holy wells, and there was just so much in there that really awakened ancient wisdom within me.
Mm.
So that
And
was the beginning of my nomadic international travel, and since then, I've been called to many places that I've traveled.
and you're now in Sedona, right?
I'm in
Arizona.
Sedona.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Also big energy portal. Yeah.
Like,
So, could you maybe run me through what a session with you is like? I know that sometimes it's very different depending on what people need, and perhaps you're like your speciality. And I mean, through your journey and what I know about you is bringing people back to their truths, to who they really are. And I mean, that obviously ties in very well with who you are and your journey. But
mhm.
yeah, like maybe to explain a bit more what a session is like and what it can do for you?
So I really act as a bridge because I'm able to connect with your higher self and your soul group. And I work with the angelic collective consciousness. So I'm able to see the higher perspective or see from a soul level what the individual is experiencing, and then
Mm,
see how that human experience that they're moving through is connected to their soul. Because the universe is so intuitive and so interactive that whatever we're experiencing in this now moment is what we need to move through for our highest good. But we forget that when we're in the human experience and we just see the difficulty or the suffering or what we're moving through, and we don't see it as an unveiling or initiation into coming back to our true authentic self.
mm,
So every client session is very different, but I work in the quantum field and work with energetically within your field to see what blockages or distortion of energy and bring those into balance. And then to be able to communicate and provide messages of what that person is actually experiencing, which that awareness brings in an openness for the healing to come in. Because what I have found through my experiencing and working with clients is my deepest desire and wish is for everyone to embody spiritual sovereignty, that freedom, that empowerment of self. So, energetically, I can work in the field, I can clear your energy, but unless you understand the patterns that are causing this, the thoughts, the beliefs, that energy is going to become clear and then you're going to continue that pattern. So
mm,
I really believe in embodying and allowing, empowering people to embody their truth, which means helping them identify where this pattern is coming from or where this belief system is coming from to help them really claim their own sovereignty. Because what I see, especially in the new age movement, so many people are into energy healing and spiritual work. They're not, I call it like spiritual bypassing. They're wanting a quick fix, which is what our
mm.
human experience has taught us, right?
Yeah,
The spiritual journey is not a quick fix. It's like this unfolding of ourself that continues and continues and continues. And for
yeah,
each level that you reach, there's another initiation or opportunity to go deeper. And as you go deeper, knowing yourself and opening up to your multidimensional being, you have all of these gifts and things that come in that allow you to experience the world in a different place.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I feel through the 8 years that I have experienced, like I feel as if I've transitioned multiple times and rebirthed myself into this world. So I'm still here in this physical body, but the way that I see the world, life, the way that I interact with it, the way I interact with nature and people in the earth is completely different than the way that I experienced it even 6 months ago, because it changes so quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Can I ask you, what makes you happiest?
To me, I mean, I feel like I'm in always have that joy and happiness within me. And I feel that it's the oneness, the unity that I feel, not only with myself, but with the earth, with the animals, with people. And I just understand how blessed I am to be in this experience and have the human experience and to be able to have experiences that expand my soul and expand my being. So I guess life makes me happy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's been great listening to you and your story. I love doing this podcast because I genuinely really enjoy listening to these stories. And I just think it's so valuable because we're one of many always. I'm one of many. And we're here to help each other out. And you are really here to help other people with the work that you do. And so I think it's great that you share your story and other people can relate. And of course, if they want to meet with you and get your assistance, they can. But even if it's through empowering them through your words in this podcast, I think it's beautiful. And I always say, well done for stepping into your power and following your truth and for being on the path. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage, but you're doing it. And I think that's great. And that's the most that we can ask of ourselves. Not to be perfect, but to courageously walk the path and grow and help and have a good time, right? At the same time in this physical life. So to wrap it up, is there something that you would like to leave the viewers with? Perhaps something that you would like them to know about themselves or about you, or any parting thoughts?
There is a message coming through with light language when I speak that I'd like to share, a heart message. But I'd like to say, we do feel at times like it's difficult to walk the spiritual path. But what I've found is it's more difficult to be trapped in a life where you're not connected and you're fearful and you're in pain and suffering than it is to really align back to your true essence. And there's nothing that we've done in this lifetime that keeps us from that because we already are divine. It's just that we have forgotten it. We already
Yeah.
are love. We already are purity. We have just forgotten that.
Yeah.
So, my words to anyone out there is you're not alone. And it's so easy just to make that choice and find your way home to yourself. Yeah. And then I speak light language. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's just the spirit, it's the language of the soul that speaks directly to your heart, it bypasses your mental mind and just speaks to that. So there is a message coming in that I just would like to share. So just taking a conscious breath and dropping into your heart space. Yakai o te ai si kai. Onai ai o ihani ka maya. Yaha tia koia isi. Yihai o kotai anai. Yahanaya. Yaha yo hopi. Ya. Ya. Yo. Just allowing that to settle in your heart. Just a message of remembrance and the love that surrounds you.
Mm. Thank you. Mhm. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been beautiful. Thank you for being on the platform as well. And yeah, I hope to be speaking with you very soon, Mira. It's been lovely to have you.
Thank you for everything that you're doing and for allowing me to be here.
Bye bye.